He sent Herbie and Bear when we needed them most. Ruffle-Up's old English sheepdogs, filling every day with boundless love, mud, and happiness since 2004. Kiss, kiss. It's no use going back to yesterday because I was a different person then. Alice in Wonderland. When you can't look on the bright side, I will sit with you in the dark. Alice in Wonderland. 1. The Surf Shack Cafe, St. Aidan, Cornwall. Slippery slopes and caramel crispies. Friday. Hi, I'm Cressy. I'm so sorry we're late. Above my head, the bunting is flapping against a cornflower blue sky, and across the Surf Shack's cafe's hewn plank table, I'm looking at 3 smiling yet expectant faces. I take it the women round the table all know Diesel, the dog, already, as he pretty much wrenched my arm off to get to them. Let's face it, with his huge grey head and his long lollopy legs that are mostly out of control, he's quite a local icon in St. Aidan. When we finally got here, he leaped up the steps so fast, my sparkly flip-flops barely touched the ground. Then he careered across the beachside deck like a guided missile. Now he's finally come to a standstill in front of the group. He's shoving his big black nose into each of their faces in turn and giving them the licking of their lives. As his tail finally slows to a normal wag, I can see a major slick on the one in the check shirt, who I think is called Nell. Then his bottom thumps down on my foot and he stares up at me. If a guy were playing me like this, I'd push him into the harbour. But with those heart-melting brown eyes, I forgive Diesel every time. Nell swipes a hand across her cheek to clear the slobber and gives his hairy shoulder a last pat. Lovely to see you too, Diesel. I hope you're being good. She turns to me. You're out of breath. Is everything okay? Even if these are friends of a friend rather than work, I was so hoping to make a good impression here. I flap my once white t-shirt and pray that the sweat halo around my scalp isn't turning my carefully prepped hair to frizz as they watch. Don't worry, I always hyperventilate when I'm excited to meet people. Hopefully that explains why I sound like I just finished an Ironman. As for Diesel, I've known him since he was a puppy. But when I agreed to look after him and Pancake, the cat, while my brother Charlie and his lovely partner Clemmy go off on an extended trip to Scandinavia, I had no idea he'd be this much of a handful. Charlie and Clemmy's flat is just along the beach, but the second Diesel's paws hit the sand, he legged it. And we had a wild half hour of chasing before I finally grabbed him again. From Nell's hard stare, it's almost like she's guessed. In the end, wading into the shallows was the only way I was going to catch him. Looking at the tide line on my otherwise pristine belted boyfriend jeans and my long dripping cardigan, you'd never know I spent the best part of this morning getting ready. It might sound over the top to some people, and neat wasn't my natural state. But since I had success with my internet baking clips, I'm expected to be picture perfect every time I leave the house. I've no doubt that if the handover had been left to Charlie, he would have tossed me the flat keys as he left for the airport, saying, "You know where everything is, see you in 3 months' time." But Clemmy has made me a manual to cover every eventuality. If she missed the bit about how to catch Diesel, it's because he never normally runs off. I'm guessing Clemmy took charge of the instructions because her part of the top floor where I'll be staying is vintage with lots of quirks, but she also added an hour-by-hour pet care log, as well as personality profiles of most people in St. Aidan, and then insisted on handing me into the care of her besties, who are welcoming me now with afternoon tea. It's lovely of them to treat me, but it's more looking after than I need. I'm the youngest of 6, and what the family forget is that I'm 32. Independent and completely capable of taking care of myself, as well as Charlie's pets. If ever you want proof that life can flip from good to the worst kind of bad, then back again, you only have to look at Charlie. 13 years ago, on the eve of their wedding, his wonderful fiancée Faye got ill and died. He had 10 long, desolate years. Then Clemmy moved into the flat next to his and made his life happy again. If I'm a little bit wary of being engulfed by Clemmy's childhood friend group, it's because I've always hung out with one bestie rather than a crowd. This lot still call themselves the Mermaids, and they haven't even met me, but they've already offered to make me an honorary member. It would be lovely if that were my kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, I love the sound of waves crashing on the shore and the higgledy village of St. Aidan with its colourful cottages stacked up the hillside, and the novelty of a cafe that's made out of 1,000 bits of driftwood nailed together. But I have no intention of reaching for my own personal mer persona anytime soon. Spending a few weeks by the sea in early summer is the kind of treat I wouldn't have had if I hadn't been pet sitting, and I've really been looking forward to the change. I've bought my saltwater sandals, and I've vowed to eat my body weight in clotted cream while I'm here. But that's the limit of me turning native, because I actually love my life in London. I know it's gone a bit tits up lately, which is why I'm extra pleased to have the chance to lie low in Cornwall for a while. Fingers crossed, by the time Charlie and Clemmy come home, my troubles will have blown over. Then I'll head back to civilization and pick up where I was before everything went wrong. We've been so looking forward to meeting you, Cressy. We don't often get stars in St. Aidan. The woman speaking now is blonde and her eyes are shining, but her aqua blue top and matching chinos are straight out of Clemmy's file notes. Sophie, mum of 4, owns 100 identical t-shirts the colour of mint ice cream, started her multi-million-pound skincare brand making cosmetics on her kitchen table, now owns a castle and rules the world. Hot tip, super organisational, be prepared to resist her on her forceful days. However starstruck Sophie sounds today, she shouldn't be. Most women who breathe and read Good Housekeeping use her Sophie May products, whereas I got one accidental lucky online break that I ran with and milked for all it was worth. Nell rubs her nose and nods. Kate Humble once popped in for a sticky toffee pudding at the Yellow Canary, so we know you're the real deal, Cressy. With celebrity presenters, it's all in the polish. I'm not about to share this, but when my career is based on something as flimsy as my on-camera sparkle and a few iced buns, I have to put the hours in. I'm hoping my all-day miracle foundation has withstood the assault of chasing after Diesel. The woman in the paint-splattered boiler suit chimes in. It's your superhuman glow that's the giveaway. When Patrick Grant came to open the Fishkey Festival, he glowed too, but way less than you. That has to be Plum, from the gallery on the steep cobbled hill above the bakery. She shakes her dark ponytail and grins straight at me. You're exactly the same as when you cook on YouTube, except without the pinny and the flour smudges. Nell flaps her fingers in front of her face. You'll have to excuse us having our fangirl moments. At least 10 million of your billion views came from us watching your videos when Clemmy was learning to bake. Plum's screwing up her face. Please, before you sit down, could you possibly say what you do at the start of your baking clips? People ask me this all the time, and I always respond because it acts like an icebreaker. Once it's out of the way, we can get back to being normal. I widen my eyes, lock onto an imaginary selfie stick, and fire. Hi, Cressida Cupcake here, bringing love to the world one blondie at a time. Given the depth of Plum's contented sigh, I have to put it into context. It's a very niche audience. Internet fame is very fleeting. If anyone knows how fickle social media success is, it's me. Until recently, I'd always have said my ambition in life was to fill the world with cake, but that was before I publicly humiliated myself in front of gazillions of TV viewers. Plum gives me a sideways smile. We all saw you on the fabulous Channel 5 baking show too, don't forget. It would have been too much to hope they weren't going to mention it. I force a smile. My time on there was sweet, but very short. Going on a bake-off show for internet bakers sounded so much fun, and better still, it landed me my dream commission for 2 recipe books. But getting sent home the second week because my oven wouldn't heat up wasn't how it was supposed to end. And even worse, the editing made my gatto look way more raw than it was in real life, and blew my baking disaster out of all proportion. But by that time, it was out of my hands. And given the fallout I'm dealing with now, I'd say it was cracking bad judgment too. Sophie gives me a wink. Don't undersell yourself, Cressy Cupcake. It was amazing to get on social's biggest bakers at all. She nods at the giant tower of fancies and muffins at the centre of the table, pushes back a chair for me, and starts handing round plates. Anyway, I'm Sophie, this is Nell, and that's Plum. It's wonderful to meet you. Let's get on with the tea. As my phone pings in the depths of my bag, I know it'll be more hate comments about uncooked middles. Despite the lack of phone signal at this far end of England, where the last bit of land pokes out into the sea, there's still a deluge of the damned things. It won't last forever. This is just a temporary downturn I've got to ride out. So long as I keep my eye on the bigger picture, I can sidestep a total meltdown. I've got 12 blissful weeks ahead of me with nothing to do but bake and look after the pets. The sun is sparking off the bright azure sea, and Diesel's curled up next to my chair. Sophie waves the cake tongs, and I nod to a popping candy cupcake, a white chocolate muffin, a sticky slab of chocolate brownie, and a flapjack slab the size of a bath sponge. Then as Nell passes round cups of tea, my watering mouth tells me for the moment there's no need to fake it. As far as true happiness goes, for me the next hour is sorted. The blueberry muffin Plum is biting into is almost as big as her head. You're going to love being in Clemmie's side of the attic flat, Cressy. It's so cosy, and you can see right around the bay. It's great to move the focus off me, and she's right. It's the most amazing place to stay. Before Clemmie and Charlie got together, they were neighbours on the top floor of Sea Spray Cottage, which is a pebble's throw from here, just round the corner from the harbour's end. Clemmie's place belonged to her grandmother, who crammed it with jewel colours and random clutter that's all still there, whereas Charlie's side of the top floor has a more minimalist luxury vibe. I laugh. And while I enjoy the views of the sea from Clemmie's ancient pink sofa, the decorators are taking over next door at Charlie's. The downside of huge white spaces is how often they need repainting, especially with Diesel living there. Sophie's eyes are bright. Clemmie mentioned you'll be busy working on your first book. That's the plan. The contracts are due any day, and the stonking advance is what I'm counting on to see me through until the bake-off bollocks dies down and the book writing is done. Living in London doesn't come cheap, but thanks to this windfall, my finances are looking rosy for the first time ever. The money hasn't hit my account yet, but the moment it does, my agent will let me know, which is why, despite the patchy signal, my nose is glued to my phone screen. I'll be using the next few weeks to check all the recipes and make the final selections. Sophie's laughing. Clemmie was convinced you'd be bored out here in the sticks, so we've promised to keep you entertained. Her offer is making my chest tighten, because I'd counted on today being the end of the mermaid intervention. Truly, I'm looking forward to relaxing at home. Not wanting to be rude, but my life has been all kinds of crazy since my Cressida cupcake blog took off. More importantly, I have to get the book fully completed and submitted while I'm here. From the way her jaw drops, she's not used to getting knocked back, but she recovers fast. Lucky for you, I'm over every meditation class in the area. Give me a yell and we'll pencil in some chill time. Nell's lips are twitching. And if you'd rather have fun rather than fall asleep, there are singles events. We're very inclusive. Couples and committeds are welcome too. I should have known this was coming because Nell's singles club was all over Clemmie's notes, but the kick in my gut now she mentions it catches me off guard. I fly solo, and that's how I'll be staying. We're already being quite shouty, but that comes out so loud the people at the nearby tables turn to look. Except for a guy with fabulous shoulders rippling through his shirt, who doesn't flinch but runs his fingers through his dark hair and stares resolutely along the beach. I kick myself for my shriek, lower my voice and try again. Thanks all the same, but I'll probably give those a miss. Coupley activities, in St. Aidan of all places, hold too many echoes for me. The one and only time I lost my head to anything resembling love was over a decade ago, and that was when I was here on holiday. Soon after Faye died, Charlie had moved down to Cornwall, and a load of us came to keep him company over Christmas, and ended up renting a big house on the coast road. There I was, bursting with the certainty that goes with turning 20, holed up at the end of the world with Charlie's best friend from uni, Ross Bradbury, whom I'd fancied the pants off since I first gasped at his pecs and stubble shadows as a sassy 14-year-old. I like to pretend it was mutual attraction, but I suspect I flung myself at him so hard there was nothing he could do but catch me. The images of those few days used to be sharp as laser cuts in my mind, but overviewing has blurred them to softer focus. All I know is nothing since ever came even halfway close. But that was maybe because, like all the best holiday flings, there was a watertight guarantee that it was for now, not forever. We kept it under wraps because the last thing Charlie needed back then was his best friend and his sister making out under the mistletoe. Even as the waves thrashed over the promenade and I leaned in to grab that first searing kiss, the end was already written in the sand. However tightly Ross wrapped me inside his coat and told me he'd never let go, we both knew the second we'd waved in the new year that he was flying off for an exchange at a veterinary faculty in the States, and I was going back to my media studies at uni in Brighton. As things panned out, it ran on to a more painful conclusion we hadn't foreseen. But what that time taught me made me who I am today. Since then, the only person I'll ever ask anything of is myself. What's more, I'm shocked at how stirred up I am now. All those years ago, I promised myself to put what happened behind me, to take note and move on, and until my wobble a moment ago, I'd have sworn that's what I'd done. Nell gives a shrug. No pressure at all to join in. Unless you're into gardening clubs or OAP discos, the social scene isn't exactly buzzing here otherwise. I'll most likely be working flat out. The recipes are my priority. I'm racking my brain to remember what else Clemmy wrote about Nell so I can smooth this over. Loves a pork sandwich. Parents live at Forget-Me-Not Farm. I seize my chance. Talking of baking, aren't you my go-to woman for eggs? 3 dozen would be brilliant to start off with, please. So long as I act like everything's fine, no one will ever guess any different. That was one of Charlie's hot tips for getting through the bad times. Although compared to him losing his life partner, my problems have been the teensiest of blips. The one positive thing about a tragedy in the family is that difficulties that come after feel like nothing at all. Nell brightens. The eggs are all free range. I can even tell you the names of the hens that laid them. I'll pop them round later. It might work best if I take control of the invitations here. I'll be doing my tryouts every day, so there will be cake, tea and colourful cushions any time you fancy dropping in. Seriously, with the amount of stairs they have to stagger up to reach the flat, they definitely won't. Plum waves her ginger slice at me. Cressida Cupcake's personal handiwork and the views from Sea Spray Cottage. I'm in. You're welcome any time. I hide my surprise by reaching down and scratching the top of Diesel's head. It's his flat more than mine, so I feel like I should be including him in this. Isn't that right, boy? I bite into the pile of popping candy on my cupcake and let the first delicious mouthful melt on my tongue. Smile as Diesel opens one lazy eye under the table. Sit back and listen to the sound of the waves rushing up the sand, then pulling back down again. Then from nowhere, there's a clatter and a whoosh of grey, and Diesel jumps to his feet. Before I can protest, his paws are on my knee and he snatched the cupcake out of my hand. A second later, it's gone, paper and all. There's a flash of pink as he licks his lips, then he's down resting his head on the deck again. My shriek finally breaks free. Oh my days, what happened there? He was full of mischief as a pup, but that was almost a third of my life ago. Apart from the time he made a midnight raid on my mum's specially iced Christmas cake, he's always been so good. Diesel's stare is inscrutable. If it wasn't for the sandy footprints decorating my jeans and top, I could almost be persuaded he had nothing to do with this. Nell's wagging her finger. Bad boy, Diesel. Plum's brow wrinkles. The entire cake went without him swallowing. I'm scrubbing the marks off my shirt, leaping in to cover for Diesel. I'm sure it won't happen again. I'm aiming to laugh this off, so I frown down at my thighs, which have to be double the size of Sophie's and are way larger than they were before all the bake-off tasting. It's probably Diesel's way of reminding me not to grow too big for my apron. The great advantage of Insta and YouTube is you can keep the bulges out of shot. And as Diesel's got one over on me twice already this afternoon, we might be better quitting while we're ahead and making a run for home. At walking pace this time. I smile around the table. It's been lovely meeting you all, but Diesel will be wanting his next walk. Nell squints at me. Another? We've barely started on the cakes. They were awesome, but I've had more than my share. It was touch and go getting my jeans to zip up earlier. Sophie's running her fingers through her perfectly cut blonde hair, watching me as I stand up. If you really can't stay, don't forget, anything you need, we're all here on standby. It's fab of them to offer, even if I won't be taking them up on it. I'm closing my fingers round Diesel's lead as he scrambles to his feet. I've had a delicious half hour, but as I told them earlier, I really will be fine on my own. Thanks then, see you soon. As I wave them goodbye, I'm giving silent hurrahs for getting away without making any definite arrangements, and before Diesel did anything worse. I'm on my third whoop when I feel the lead slide across my palm. I make a grab, but it's already gone, and Diesel's way ahead of it. 2. The Surf Shack, St. Aidan, Cornwall. Toast toppings and where to stick them. Friday. I close my eyes and curse under my breath as I feel the gap in my hand where Diesel's lead should be. When I open them, I'm ready to see Diesel lolloping off, tail held high as he disappears around the curve of the bay. But he's much closer. And it's so much worse. He's made a beeline for the guy sitting on his own at a cafe table by the steps, and his paws are already on his shoulders. I groan. It's one thing Diesel clambering all over Clemmy's friends, a stranger not so much. And not that I've got a choice, but I wish Diesel had chosen someone ordinary rather than the most ripped guy in the place. 2 leaps and I'm across the deck and ready to grovel. I'm so sorry, my dog's not attacking you, he's just super friendly. If I personalise this, he may react better. His name is Diesel. Obviously, I'll replace any food of yours he's breathed on. I'm under the table trying to find the end of the lead before Diesel takes off again. Diesel and I already know each other well. You do? As Diesel seems to be besties with most of Cornwall, that's no surprise. But there's something catchingly familiar about that laid-back, gravelly tone that makes me jolt so hard I bang my head on the table. As for recognising the pull of taut denim or the giveaway curve of a thigh bone in the shadows, that's ridiculous. But as I finally close my fingers around the leather and scramble back to my feet, my insides have turned to jelly. Egan Cress Hobson, who'd have thought? It is you, Cressy, isn't it? It's that same dark chocolate voice that used to inexplicably turn me from a shy teenager into a mouthy princess desperate to be noticed. Now there's a huge hole where my stomach should be, and, worse still, hearing my childhood nickname has made me clamp my eyes tight shut. That's right. Except my head's spinning so fast I'm not sure I know who I am at all as I try to work it out and fail. Ross? Surely it can't be. Except one flick of my eyes and I can see it's him. What's more, he's got the whole rugged jaw and devastating dark eyes thing going on. Not that I'd be shallow enough to fall for that whole knockout sex on legs vibe now. These days, if I were looking, which obviously I'm not, I'd look a lot more at the whole person. Still just as extraordinary too, from what I just overheard. He's peering at me past Diesel's back. No surprise there. You were always going to do something astonishing. You were listening in? I'm praying he didn't hear me acting like a celebrity. As for him catching me on my frizziest hair day since time began, well, isn't that just typical? He pulls a face. It wasn't deliberate. You were talking quite loudly. That fires me up enough to make me focus again. What the hell are you doing here anyway? More to the point, what the hell went wrong with that unspoken agreement we had? He took Scotland, which he never left due to being a workaholic, and I got the rest of the world. For all those years, I've been totally confident that he was never going to accidentally waft into a city bar and start ordering pints of craft ale. Secure that the scar on his left cheek where he got kicked by a cow wasn't about to jump out from behind a postcard rack and make my knees do what they're doing now. Legs as sturdy as mine shouldn't ever give way, but I grasp the table edge just in case. He clears his throat. I'm doing a bit of locum work at the local vets. Excuse me? With Charlie so established in Cornwall now, it's easy to forget that Ross is the one who grew up here. However surprising it is that he's returned to his roots after so long away, we both know guys with as many letters after their names as Ross has don't work as temporary stand-ins. He sniffs. Charlie mentioned you were arriving, but I thought that was tomorrow, and my placement ran on unexpectedly, which is why I'm here having a last blowout. He's drumming his fingers on the table, then his voice rises sharply. Hey, don't let Diesel eat my toast. The crusts I'm wrestling out of Diesel's mouth are green and slimy, but it's a matter of pride to get the whole slice back onto the plate again. To be fair to Diesel, he might have done Ross a favour here. Considering all the yummy cake on offer, grilled sludge looks a terrible choice. Why not give Diesel the dodgy toast and I'll shout you an extra large slice of death by chocolate instead? I'm appalled that I can even recall his soft spot for cocoa, but if I'm plagued with unwelcome insider knowledge, I might as well use it. That's brought on a frown like a storm cloud. You are joking. Of course Diesel can't have the toast. Avocado's bad for dogs. You must know that. I do now. What's more, as a trusted pet sitter, it's more than my life's worth to admit the gaping hole in my doggy knowledge. So that's what the slime is. Lucky Supervet's here to put me straight. These guys and their health kicks. Plus he's looking at me like I'm about 2 inches high. I know he's got a gazillion more qualifications than me, but other attributes count too. In my world, I look guys in the eye as equals until proven otherwise. And didn't he used to laugh out loud rather than have a tiny ironic twist to his smile? It's like I'm staring at someone who hit 35 and had a total sense of humour bypass. Looking at that stony expression, it hits me how dismal my life could have become if things between us had worked out differently. I did not have that thought. More than that, I have spent the last 12 years making sure I never let my mind go anywhere close to there. What am I thinking? He's staring out to sea like there's no hope for any of us. If you're responsible for Diesel, I'd better drop you a chart off. A chart? I'm talking in the voice of a strangled hedgehog. You're surely not coming round. It's bad enough seeing him here. If I had to face him in Clemmy's tiny flat, I might actually expire. Don't worry, I'm not about to invade your space. Foods dogs need to avoid. A visual reminder. It'll fit through the letterbox. He rubs Diesel's ears. Charlie worships this boy. We can't be too careful while he's away. If there had been any other way, Charlie and Clemmy would never have left him. But I'm damned if I'll let Ross see the responsibility petrifies me. Instead, I give a tug on the lead. So, can I get you that cake before we go? Or more toast? He pulls a face. I'll give that a miss, thanks. I'm suddenly less hungry than I was. Great. It's not, but as we've totaled his visit to the surf shack and he's pretty much wrecked my afternoon, no other ironic answer springs to mind. I toss in a final throwaway line before I run. We'll see you around then. He leans back in his seat, narrows his eyes like he's giving this his full consideration, but there's also an extra flicker to the scar on his cheekbone that gives away how uncomfortable he is. It might be best if I leave the beach to you from now on. The last time I saw that same pained frown and the twitch on his cheek, I'd just lost our baby and he was backing out of the room, heading back to the States. And I hadn't ever planned on seeing him again. To the extent that you have no idea of the effort I've put in to make sure I didn't. As far as I know, it's been forever since he was down in Cornwall, and I had no reason to think that would change. If I'd had the slightest suspicion he'd be here, I'd have headed for the other end of the country. If I've ever let that unlikely accidental meet-up scenario play out in my head, it certainly didn't end with us glaring at each other as we divvied up who could go where in the village. Of all the shocks, I was not ready for this one. When I think how much I've looked forward to chilling by the sea and reconnecting with my happy place, and now I feel like a tidal wave has picked up my entire ordered, nicely level life and tumbled it into chaos. The full implication of what he said is dawning on me. You mean you'll still be here? He closes his eyes. Only for a couple of days. I make sure my smile is the brightest ever. In which case we won't see you, around or anywhere else, which is fine by us. Including Diesel makes us sound stronger, but better still, it makes this less about him and me. I'm about to tell him to have a nice life, but I manage to bite it back. Even a very breezy laters feels too loaded with threats that I'll be stalking him. So I end up being my mum doing her impersonation of her old hockey teacher. We'll say cheerio then, toodle pip. And for once, when I turn to march off, Diesel wags beside me. And somehow we manage to make it across the deck and down the steps without me falling off my flip-flops. And then we're sinking into the soft sand, hurrying to the ocean's edge where the lacy-edged breakers are frothing over the watery shine below. 3. Clemmy's flat at Seaspray Cottage, St. Aidan. Sweet fillings and sticky ends. The next morning, Saturday. Chocolate chips, walnut, white chocolate chunks and Oreo, dark chocolate and mint. As I come through into the living room next morning, Nell's eggs are stacked and waiting on the apple green dresser in the kitchen, and I'm running my favourite brownie mixes past Diesel. I've already re-smoothed half my rather salty hair and messaged Clemmy and Charlie with some early morning views from St. Aidan, Diesel lying by the open bedroom door, enjoying the breeze from the balcony, and Pancake giving me a disgusted of St. Aidan dead-eye. That was for being 2 hours behind Clemmy's morning schedule, serving up today's prawn and bamboo shoot kitty soup breakfast, which was pretty mean of Pancake. After all, she was the one who kept me awake most of the night, lying on my pillow mountain, purring in my ear. I can't really blame my lack of sleep on Pancake, and it wasn't down to the noise of the waves breaking on the beach below the window either. And the bedroom itself is dreamy, with the comfiest bed with the prettiest floral print eiderdowns and picture-covered walls, painted in a patchwork of dusky rose colours. If I was still thrashing around under the soft, floaty duvet as the dawn light crept across the sky, it was because the afternoon at the surf shack was running through my head like an everlasting film loop. And if I ever managed to stop it, the gap simply filled with half-forgotten montages from years ago instead. And sure, in those long dark hours before daybreak, I was cursing myself for not having given Charlie a subtle yet thorough grilling about Ross's movements before I arrived. I should have realised I need to be just as vigilant now as I was all those years ago, when I was constantly scanning the horizon, triple-checking the coast was clear. Yet it's hard to stay down in St. Aidan, especially when you wake up to the sun glinting off a pale turquoise sea, the seagulls wheeling against a sky filled with cotton-white clouds, and surf lines stretching right across the width of the bay. Sure, Ross may have hurt me because he didn't turn out to be the guy I thought he was. And with me falling accidentally pregnant, and then getting over the loss of not being, the fallout was out of all proportion to our very short time together. But it was a long time ago. All those times, over the years before, when Charlie brought Ross home, he'd never been anything less than his smiling, very clever, hugely fanciable and charming self. But that's not to say he was perfect to the point of being boring. In fact, he was pretty all-round flawless in the most interesting and offbeat, quirky ways. He teased us 5 sisters in exactly the right amounts to make us tease him back. He brought my mum her favourite dark blue anemones when the rest of us hadn't even noticed she liked flowers. And not only did he know all the characters in the Archers, He was up for discussing the plot twists with her too. He chatted to my dad about the Today programme and Frank Zappa. I mean, who else did that without falling asleep? Basically, as far as our entire family were concerned, the sun shone out through the strategically placed rips in his tight, Levi-clad tush. What's more, it wasn't just at home where he excelled. He was always telling us about the times at vet college when he'd taken on entire herds of cows and got the better of them. Once he'd even anaesthetised an elephant with a bloody tranquilizing dart. This was the kind of Superman we were dealing with, which was why it was such a shock when he and I got into metaphorical deep water, and I discovered when it came to the big stuff, he couldn't actually swim. There's that Eleanor Roosevelt quote about women being like tea bags. You only know how strong they are when you get them into hot water. In Ross's case, the tea he made had no colour at all. You could say the whole damned bag pretty much collapsed, which wasn't what I was expecting, because it simply wasn't what he'd led us to believe. But hey, that was then and this is now. I found out I could do it on my own anyway, which was the best lesson in empowerment I could have had. More importantly, I'm not the kind of woman to let a reappearing ex ruin my working holiday, especially an ex as insignificant as Ross. So I'm determined to make things better in the best way I know, by baking, which is why I'll be throwing myself straight into my brownie trials. I mustn't overlook caramel and custard cream, but then I also love Nutella ones. I plug in my hair tongs, curl up on the deep pink velvet sofa, and smooth down my favourite ditzy print shift dress. Then Diesel flops down beside me, and as my phone pings, I reach to check it. I'd trust the meringue tips more if that cake hadn't been #totally raw. What a pretender! #crappy cupcake. These are the comments I've been rising above ever since the baking show went on air, with 2 more wonderful new hashtags today. You have to hand it to the haters for their creativity. Who'd have thought there'd be so many different ways to say not quite cooked? It must be at least an hour since I checked my emails too, and as I flip through my inbox and see the name Martha Channing, I almost choke. Isn't it always the way? You refresh every 2 minutes for 3 months, and the moment you turn your back, the mail you've been aching for drops into the inbox. Martha is my agent, and this will be her letting me know the book contract has come through from the publisher, which also means the mahoosive advance will be dropping into my bank account as soon as I sort my digital signature. I squint at the email. Cressy, are you around for a call later this morning? Martha, kiss. Even in the media and magazine world, having an agent is the kind of big thing that only happens on the back of a TV show. And this is how lovely Martha is. She's actually taking the time to tell me in person that the cash is on its way. I write, hell yes, then delete that and try to sound more like the pro I'm going to be. Martha, lovely, 11:30 would be fab. Huge thanks, Cressy. Kiss, 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 kiss. Then, as I press send, it hits me. She usually does a face-to-face call. So both sides of my hair have to be the same and I need makeup. And Diesel needs a walk before then. And I can't take a high-caliber call like this without some serious calories on board to get my sugar levels up. So that means pulling in a trip to the bakery too, which luckily is just around the corner because seeing it's already 10, my feet aren't going to touch the ground. It's that same sod's law with my hair. When it doesn't matter, it's a dream to do. But when I'm trying for perfect, it's a pig. The only way I can calm myself down enough to smooth anything out is by thinking of champagne. Not that I'm going to go crazy, but something this big is worth popping a cork over. And I'll treat myself to fish and chips with all the trimmings to go with it. Then wave a finger at all the #soggy bottom miseries as I enjoy it. This is a whole new jumping off point for Cressida Cupcake. And as we set off through the village, it feels like Diesel's upping his game too. By the time we're tearing up the hill to Krusty Cobbs, he's trotting beside me like an obedience champion. For me, splashing out on a box of 4 strawberry tarts is both a treat and an investment. And just to celebrate how much in the money I'm going to be, I buy a couple of almond croissants to eat on my way home too. All we've got to do now is make it up the stairs to the flat without expiring, and then I'll take the call on the pink sofa where the signal's strong. With a few well-placed patchwork cushions and the turquoise and green stripy wall behind me, it'll be job done. No one could accuse me of not going the extra mile on my prep. It's all going so brilliantly as we cross the harbour on our way back to the flat. There's even enough time to loop behind the stacks of lobster pots and wind along the quay edge where the bright-coloured fishing boats are bobbing beside the piles of nets, which Diesel likes to sniff. When I hear my ringtone, I stuff the last of the first croissant into my mouth and the second into my cardigan pocket. Then I fish the phone out of my bag, hang on to Diesel and answer automatically, thinking it's probably Charlie or Clemmy. It's only as my finger hits accept on the call that I clock that it's Martha 10 minutes before she's due. As I pull Diesel closer, there's a cascade of pastry flakes falling from my mouth as I try to speak. Marth! How lovely! Cressy, great to see you. I'm a little earlier than we said, but you're obviously ready and looking fantastic. I was right about the face-to-face call, and she's on speakerphone, but I'm not going to risk changing that now. This isn't a reply. It's my protest as Diesel's nose homes in on the spare croissant and edges it out of my pocket. For once, he doesn't gulp it, but the way he holds it down on the cobbles with his paw and takes little tugs with his teeth, it's as if he's trying to torture me. Martha's screen is entirely filled with my exploding face, but she's pushing on. Her voice is booming around the harbour, which is fine because I feel like whooping too. There's been a tiny hitch, Cressy, but it's not unexpected after all the hashtag soggy bottoms we're contending with. The lovely thing about Martha is she's so cheery and supportive. She always makes me feel like a winner. It's too bad she's telling the whole of St. Aidan about the hashtag. Worse still that she's seen them at all. I'm letting out silent wails for my disappearing pastry, but as the word hitch sinks in, my attention snaps back to Martha. More fool me for seeing this as my own private nightmare. Martha carries on. We can't blame the marketing department for getting chilly feet. Damn. When the backlash is so public, of course the publishers will know about it too. But she sounds so bright, it can't be that bad. So for now, they've withdrawn their contract offer. It takes a couple of seconds for her words to echo back off the row of fishermen's cottages and sink into my brain. As my heart judders to a halt, I stagger to a nearby bench. Then my gulp is huge enough for me to swallow the rest of what is left in my mouth. So they won't be paying anything up front? It's meant to be a hyena shriek, but it comes out as a whimper. Not at this stage, and they won't be taking the books from you either. But if you're still keen to do one, go ahead. We can try to place it once it's complete. I can't believe she sounds so matter-of-fact. For me, it's like I won the lottery and now I've lost the ticket. But I need to get this clear. So that's all the work, but none of the cash. And no guarantees either. More to the point, how am I going to survive for the next 6 months without the money? It felt so rock solid. I've based all my financial forecasts on it and my life plans too. Which sounds a lot more fancy than it is. But if you think there's a wodge coming your way, you're a lot less careful with the cash you have left. I mean, 5 minutes ago I was splurging at the bakery. What I blew there would have kept me in soup for a month. Now I'm counting every almond flake. Thank Christmas I didn't buy the fizz. Martha's smile is pained. Get your book under your belt while the Ice Age is here and pray like mad for a thaw. It's speculative, but it's my best suggestion given the... I can't help my